During Formula One races, you will constantly hear commentators like Martin Brundle say, "Look at Verstappen, searching for the grip on the karting line." To be clear, the dry racing line for an F1 car isn't vastly different from a karting line, but the wet weather line is a world away. The wet line looks like the driver is trying to drive off the track. They pin their car to a wide outside line, one that's completely unused in the dry. Why? Because the unused tarmac gives them the only grip available. The generic racing line is traditionally the shortest path around the track. With a wet track being slower, the key is not distance, but finding the surface grip that will allow the driver to achieve the optimal lap time. This isn't driving, it's tarmac detective work. Let's look into the physics and the strategy behind this invisible line. The difference between the dry line and the wet line comes down to one element: rubber. Rubber laid down during dry conditions provides incredible grip. The friction and the adhesive quality of the warm rubber against the tire rubber create a strong bond. But when it rains, that changes everything. Water collects on top of these rubbered areas, creating a slippery film. But it's worse than just water. The rubber deposits smooth out the asphalt's natural porous texture, eliminating the tiny channels the wet tires need to evacuate water. This slick, rubber-coated surface is a recipe for hydroplaning. The goal in the wet is simple: avoid the rubbered sections and instead seek out the clean, gritty, untouched track surface. This rougher asphalt has microscopic crevices that allow water to drain, giving the wet tires much better mechanical traction. The best example of this in F1 is legendary. Fernando Alonso in Hungary, 2006, and Max Verstappen in Brazil, 2016, both pinned their cars to the outside karting line to find grip where their rivals were sliding. The visual evidence of this is one of motorsport's greatest sights. Alonso's 2006 Hungarian Grand Prix drive was a masterclass in reading the surface. Starting from P15 on a damp track, he climbed 8 places on the first lap alone. He achieved this by constantly flinging the car wide into the untouched areas of the track, often taking more steering lock and being earlier on the power than anyone thought possible. Then there is Max Verstappen's drive in Brazil 2016. In torrential rain, after dropping to 14th place due to a poor tyre call, Max used the karting line for a breathtaking comeback. His daring passes were almost always executed on the outside of the corner, where the lack of rubber and standing water offered the grip needed to carry more momentum into the exit. During a track walk, it's crucial for drivers to note where the rubber has built up, as these areas should be avoided. Now, Max Verstappen famously doesn't do track walks. This is less about arrogance and more about supreme confidence in his feel for the car. Max uses the outlap or formation lap as his reference, testing the surface with small power applications and immediate steering inputs, and then he goes from there. It is a unique approach that only a handful of drivers in history could execute. When approaching a hairpin in the wet, the rules of braking completely change. You must choose braking zones that are free from ingrained rubber. This typically means using the inside line, mirroring an opportunistic overtaking route in the dry. There are 2 key strategic wet line approaches used by the best. Line 1, the wide sweep. The driver brakes on the inside, away from the rubber, and then sweeps out wide to the very outside of the corner. The goal is to maximize the time spent on the clean, gritty surface. This line provides good grip and a straightforward, controlled exit, massively reducing the risk of a dangerous rear wheel slide. Line 2, the cutback line. The driver still starts with inside braking, drifts out wide, but then aims for a very late apex, executing a cutback line. This sacrifices entry speed, but allows for an earlier, straightened exit with minimal steering. This enables quicker power application down the following straight. A key benefit: if this line doesn't work as intended, the driver has the room to revert to the safer line 1 mid-corner. The challenge is compounded when the track begins to dry. The rubbered line, which was once a slick of water, starts to be the first part of the track to dry out because the cars running offline push water towards the outside. The driver then faces a split-second decision. Do I stay on the wide, safer karting line that is now saturated with water, or do I dare move onto the traditional line, which is still slippery, but is slowly gaining a dry, grippy groove? This is where F1 strategy truly becomes art. A driver who moves to the drying line one lap too early is rewarded with a massive pace advantage. A driver who moves one lap too late loses several seconds. The margin for error is razor thin. This is why drivers are constantly encouraged to experiment. Watch a Verstappen, Hamilton, or Alonso. They don't just stick to the karting wet line for all corners. Sometimes the traditional shortest way around a corner will still be the fastest, particularly through high-speed chicane complexes, where the driver will try to straight line the corner as much as possible to avoid major steering inputs. The search for the wet line is more than just driving. It is a live physics experiment at 200 miles an hour. It is a visual testament to the sheer skill and adaptability of Formula One's greatest rainmasters. For more tips and in-depth techniques on how the world's fastest drivers defy physics, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell for more in-depth motorsport stories and theories decoded. Apex Media, Motorsport, Decoded.